All right, good morning. Actually, when you watch this video, it's probably evening. Anyway, this is review. So there's 5 different problems here, and they get a little bit more complex as we go, sort of. So I'm going to do a couple of these problems, maybe one per video. We'll see. But anyway, we are solving rational functions. So notice our x is in the denominator. Okay, so that tells us we have rational functions here. The first thing we want to do is we want to make all of these into fractions. So very easily we put our integers over 1, and now we get a common denominator. Now notice we have an x, a 1, and an x. So this middle term needs an x, so that way we have a common denominator here on the left. Okay, so we're going to have 5 over x plus, and since this denominator needs an x, I also have to put that on the numerator. Okay, so I really haven't changed the number 2 because x divided by x is still 1. Okay, those cancel and leaves us with 2. Okay, so whatever we need in the denominator, we also need to put that in the numerator as multiplication. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and combine these two so that we have a common denominator. We add the numerator. Denominator stays the same. Okay, and now we just need to cross multiply because we have a proportion. So cross multiplying this way. Since we're having a monomial times a binomial, a group, we need to distribute. Not distributing here, just a straight multiplication. Okay, and then we simply have a quadratic. And normally I wouldn't continue because we've already learned this and we've covered it many times, but I know that some of us still struggle with solving a quadratic. So let's go through the steps. So remember, when solving a quadratic, step 1 is to set the equation equal to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. So there's my 0. And I'm going to rearrange this order, put my degree first. It's a second degree polynomial, and then do my subtraction, and then my 0. Okay, so I can go ahead and start by factoring out an x out of both terms here. Remember, factoring means to divide. So I divided the first term by x. I divided the second term by x. I factored it out. Okay, so now I just have to set each factor equal to 0. So let's start off with the first factor. There you go. So there's one solution. And then set the other factor equal to 0. Solve for x. Hopefully I don't need to show the work on this. I'm trying to keep my videos shorter. But remember, if you don't understand something, come and see me privately. Okay? Well, that went pretty quick. Only used about 4 minutes. So let's go ahead and do another one on this video real quick. Looking at the denominator, we want to get a common denominator here. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about the right side right now, just this left side. So the first thing you want to do here is you want to try to factor. So obviously I can take an x out of both. Okay, so that kind of shows me what we have in common. We have an x plus 1 in common. So we're good on the x plus 1, but this one has another factor of an x, so that means that this fraction needs an x. So if I rewrite this, this fraction has an x and an x plus 1, but this one doesn't have an x, so we're going to need to include it on the top and on the bottom. So do you guys see that? An x and an x plus 1. So now this one also has an x and an x plus 1. But remember, if I include it in the denominator, I need to include it in the numerator as well. All right. So now that I have common denominators, we add the numerators. Denominator stays the same. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and cross multiply. So what I'm going to do here is, because we may want to do some simplifying, we'll wait till the end to do that. Let's go ahead and we're going to cross multiply this way. So we're going to have x times 3, x times 3x. Okay, now I'm going to save that negative on the -1, so that way when I cross multiply this way, I have that -1. Okay, the negative is on the 1. So I'm going to multiply this times this. That's just going to give me a -x. And then we'll do it in a second step so nobody gets confused. Because remember, anything times -1 is negative. So I just made my x negative on the front. Alright, so we have a quadratic. So again, we want to set the equation equal to 0 and we want to solve. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify the right side. Get you guys going on this. Okay, I'm just kind of cleaning things up here so that way I can move things over. I'm going to add the x squared. Okay, cancel that out. I'm going to add the x to cancel that out to make our 0 over here. So we're going to have 4x squared and 4x. Okay, and then of course we want to solve this. So I'm going to go ahead. I see I can factor out a 4 out of both terms, and I can factor an x out of both terms. Then set each factor equal to 0, so 4x and 1 plus x. And obviously this answer is going to be 0. And subtracting the 1, this answer is going to be -1. Alright. Also, yeah, one of these answers, one thing I should mention is you need to kind of check the answers to make sure we do not have division by 0. And notice that if I plug the 0 in here, we have a division by 0, and that's not allowed. So this is an extraneous solution. Notice if I plug the -1 in here, that works. Well, that was a plus, right? -1 plus 1, that's also 0. So that doesn't work. So if none of the answers work, you write no solution. Let's go back up and check these answers. So if I plug 0 in, we have division by 0, extraneous solution. So that one does not work. Plug a half in, yep, that works fine. So the only answer we have for number 1 is 1/2. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do another video. If you got it, then you're good to go. Okay, if you need more practice, please see my next video.